All right, everyone, welcome to the stream. So today what we're going to be doing is watching the Iguana with the Tongue of Fire. It's a film from 1971. I believe it's sort of in the giallo genre, which is sort of Italian kind of thriller, sort of horror movie. I think the horror elements are going to be pretty light. Probably more like more just like a thriller. So, yeah, I'm excited to watch this with you. We'll hop over into the theater in just a second and get started. First things first, let's get into the theater. All right. And then the next thing we need to do is get to our normal seat up in the balcony there. As usual, our little friend is holding our seat, as they tend to do. A little fuzzy lamb. Let's wait until they get the curtain open here. And there we go, Iguana with the Tongue of Fire. Alright, it looks like things are about to start here. I'll get into my normal position. Thanks for holding my seat, little friend. All right. So, hey everyone. My name is Woody Fentress. I am director and producer here at Broken Bread, which is this channel that you would be watching this on. So, if you are, if you're enjoying any of the stuff you've seen on this channel, if this is your first thing that you've seen on the channel, then welcome. If you're enjoying the other screenplay kind of ride-along videos that I've been doing, then subscribe to the channel. And if you are enjoying these kind of watch-alongs, these film watch-alongs, then please subscribe to the channel as well. So my goal with this series, these Broken Bread filmmakers react to different films, is to hopefully give you all a different perspective when watching a movie. So, some of my favorite series out there are ones where you can hear professionals in a field, folks that have some experience in a field, watching something and giving their kind of honest opinion and take on it. You might not always agree with it, but hopefully it gives you a different perspective, and it helps you to learn something. And I know it does with me. I really feel as though when I watch those things, I really do, learn something from it. So, let me just say thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. I'm excited to watch this movie. I've never seen this film. As it says in the title of the video, this is my first ever time watching, so it'll be a sort of live reaction. I will admit I have seen the first couple of minutes of this, just to make sure the audio levels were right and stuff. And so there's some interesting stuff in the first couple minutes that I had a pretty big reaction to the first time I saw it. I'll probably have a little bit smaller reaction, but then yeah. So I'm very excited to check this out. The last thing I'll say is that these sort of Italian films from the 70s of what they would call the giallo genre, which I believe is or giallo, um, is Italian for yellow, which is a reference to the yellow sort of crime books that would be sold, I think, in newsstands in the 60s and 70s in Italy. So people could buy these crime books, and they had this, I don't want to say kind of roteness to them, sort of familiarity, kind of story of the week type of vibe. And so this film genre really, really started picking up in the 70s, and filmmakers who you may have heard of, like Dario Argento, or Umberto Lenzi, or Lucio Fulci, Mario Bava, or some of like the biggest names in the Italian film genre or Italian filmmaking world from that time, who were making kind of the most popular giallo films. And they have a lot of similarities to them in the ways that you get first person views of the killer. The killer often will wear like black leather gloves and use sort of like a razor blade or a knife. And they tend to kill sort of violently, and they can tend to be sort of murder mysteries, and the murder mystery can veer, on the spectrum, can be very grounded and very realistic feeling, all the way to very unrealistic and almost sort of psychedelic and hyper real. So I don't know where this falls on the spectrum. I get the vibe from the first few minutes that it falls maybe closer to the realism side, but who knows? Maybe I might be surprised by it. So yeah, we'll watch through the movie, and then I'll talk a little bit about my feelings about it afterwards, but also tell you a little bit more about my experience with giallo, because it is one of my um, favorite film genres for sure, and the 70s in general is such a incredibly wonderful time for film, and in a lot of ways, from an artistic standpoint, that it definitely suffered in a lot of ways, from a representation standpoint, and whether that be race or gender or sexuality or mental illness, in the ways that all those things were represented or not represented. But from a creative standpoint, the type of stuff, that sort of happened in the 70s was truly kind of unbelievable. So, I'm just going to do one more, just double check, just to make sure everything with the stream is working, make sure the video is coming through clearly to you all. And if it is, then we'll go ahead and fire this up. All right, it appears that everything is working how we want, which is always a good sign. Let's do a double check over here. Yep, it seems like it's coming through visually how we want. Cool, yeah, and it seems like the audio is fine as well, which is great. So I'm happy about that, and happy with the way that the everything is behaving thus far, which is great. Um, you never know what kind of technical difficulties you might run into. So yeah, it looks like like we are good. Let's just get the film reset back to the very beginning to fire it up. All right. Alrighty, so I think we're ready to go here. We'll count it down in just a second. I've got my nice big bowl of popcorn. Hopefully when I'm chewing, my mic won't pick that up. I got my nice big glass of water, keep me hydrated through my very salty popcorn. It's definitely salted it plenty. And oh yeah, I need my headphones so I can actually hear the film. Normally I'd have it coming out of the speakers, but I don't want it to, if I have it come out of the speakers, I'm afraid it's going to feed back into my microphone, and then you all will, you all would be getting double audio, and we don't want that. So, got my trusty headphones here. I'll get those on. And I say trusty headphones because I've had these for a few years now. I'm trying to think, when did I get these? I must have got them. I think I got them right before I left for my trip to Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, which would have been at least 5 years ago. And I've only had to send them away for repair once and repair them myself twice, but they still sound great. So, and they, I don't know if you've ever used a pair of Grado Labs, which is this company, but they have a lifetime warranty. Send them in, and I pay, I think, a flat fee, and they'll work on them, which is great. So, let's do it. Get that there, and I think we are ready to go. All right, let's count it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I think Dagmar Lysander is the biggest name in this. Her name sounds familiar, and I tried to look up a picture of her, and I think I got distracted and didn't recognize her from anything else. Peeking over his shades. Checking this out. He can't believe it. I feel like this is kind of just a classic film opening, establishing shots, wide, big wide establishing shots of the city that it's set in. I gotta say that there's something about using the zoom lenses in the 70s that I always really loved, starting out with that closer zoom in on the cars, pulling back to a wide shot that sort of cranes up, zooming in on this red car and then following it. I feel like you don't get that much use of kind of quicker zoom in shots like that, like you really did in the 70s. It was very in vogue at the time. Silvio Cipriani, who did the music for this, has a bunch of amazing music. If you're enjoying this type of music, definitely check out a bunch. He did one with Nora Orlandi. I forget what the film was. I think they've done a few compositions together, but he did one with, I think Silvio is a man, but they did one together that was really, really cool. I wish I could remember it, but yeah, look them up together. Look them up separately, Nora Orlandi and Silvio Cipriani, but then also the work that they did together. Super, super fun music of that era and of that style. So it seems like they set us up that we were in London or somewhere in England, but then that establishing shot of this scene didn't really feel like England. Maybe it was though. So it's like she's expecting someone, maybe. She hears the motorcycle. She's looking out the window, the picture of the person on the table. You know, it's kind of almost planting this thing in our heads, like she's waiting for someone, but then this is probably not that person. Or is it? You know, is it going to be, you know, one of these kind of classic set you up with the tension to believe it's something evil and then pay it off with, oh no, it's, you know, just, you know, her husband coming home or something like that. But the line is cut. And the music is cut as well.
What are you doing? No! No!
Oh, oh God. Oh, that didn't get any better the second time. That was just as brutal. Wow. So you could tell there that they used a false face so that they could burn the flesh off, and then a false neck, you know, to insert the...
Awful weather. It may be romantic, mais très emmerdant, huh?
You know, to insert the blade into the fake neck and allow the blood to come out.
What's a war?
But it's the rain that makes it so green and beautiful.
Yes, yes. I suppose you're right. Where were you going?
Well, I thought that you were late, so I was going to do a little job.
Thank you for visiting, dear. I didn't think you could get up so early in the morning.
I could hardly believe it myself.
If I didn't know that my husband was not in Dublin, I would have thought that he was the author of such a miracle.
Now you're getting evil.
Perhaps, but I'm not playing the role of the jealous wife.
I know.
On.
Here, put these parcels in the boot of the car.
Perhaps it'd be better to put them next to me on the seat.
Yes, perhaps it's better. But if you have something else to do, I'll drive the car myself. Come on.
No, no, madam. I beg your pardon, but my business is not important. It can wait.
Where can I drop you, dear?
It's all right. I have my own car. Thanks.
Oh. Bien alors. Mandel, stop first to Trinity College, then.
Yes, madam.
Sunglasses, okay. Those mean something.
Bernard.
Whoa, okay.
Bernard, allons en voiture, chérie. Bernard, what are you doing? Come on, Sue. Ah! Oh! God. call the police. Oh, yes, let's call the police.
I mean, it seems as though this guy knew that something was in the boot, as he called it.
Hello. Hello, Jerry, it's you. Oh, Jerry, something horrible has happened. Yes, here in the embassy. No, His Excellency's away, as always. He's in Switzerland. What are you doing
Jerry,
here?
it's me. No, I came back last night. Listen, you'd better come over right away. As counsel of the embassy, you will have to look after this affair. Yes. I don't think there's any need for Bernard to overhear this conversation.
Oh, but it was you
Well,
discovered.
exactly. You must make it forget what we have seen.
Darling.
Bernard,
Darling, go upstairs.
go to your room. I came back earlier than I expected. It never stopped raining in Davos.
Did you call on Mark?
No. No, I didn't stop over in Zurich.
Were you alone?
As always, my darling. Now when Jerry comes, will you please tell him to get in touch with the police immediately? Who are you?
My name is Johnson. I'm the doctor.
I've called for him.
Well, have you written your report?
Yes. It's right here.
And do you think it is
Johnson, the
possible
doctor.
to recognize this person?
I would say it's impossible. The murderer has done a perfect job. A specialist, I would say. Like me.
Inspector Lawrence. Excuse me, sir. This letter's for you, sir.
Thank you.
So I will say I did really like the way that they set up the shots of revealing the person in the trunk.
The boat of the Rolls-Royce.
Really? Well, was there nothing else? Not even a letter?
What did you expect? The murderer's name and address, and an invitation to drop by for tea between 5 and 6.
No, but you never know.
Get a move on. According to this passport, she was born in Holland.
So?
Well, it may be a coincidence, but Mr. Sobieski, before he came to Dublin, was ambassador to The Hague.
We'd better call him into questioning.
For God's sake, man, wake up. Do you think we're enough to call an ambassador in for questioning? It'll be a lot if we get permission to question the members of his staff.
I'd like to see him try and stop us.
You can do quite easily. I'll have to get on to the foreign ministry if I'm to get to the bottom of this inquiry.
Will they give us permission?
Let's hope so, but it won't be much use. At the most, all we can do is to get him declared persona non grata.
Well, we're waiting for the bloody bureaucrats to make up their minds. Our boy will have time to slit 3 or 4 other throats. There's nothing else we can do.
Don't worry, Jones. I'll go on making my inquiries all the same. And I couldn't care less if I am accused of being unorthodox. Get me?
But how?
You'll find out.
This might be the first Giallo film that I've ever seen where, I guess because it's supposed to be set in England, that the English, dubs have English accents. Normally they have like American accents or, European people trying to do American accents.
Inspector Lawrence is here to see you.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
He arrived without warning. He's in the library. Inspector Lawrence of the Homicide Squad, Your Excellency. He insisted on speaking to you.
Hello, Inspector.
How do you do, Your Excellency?
Oh,
Matches.
If the film's not loud enough, then and you're watching, then please say something in the chat, and I'll make sure it gets turned up. I'm gonna just go check on it. I'll still be able to watch as I'm checking.
I'm sorry to trouble you, Mr. Ambassador, but I find myself in a particularly embarrassing position.
I quite understand. And I'm going to collaborate with the police. Naturally, I expect this investigation to be carried out with the utmost discretion.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador, there's a question I should like to ask you. Did you know that woman?
Which woman?
I meant the one that was in...
Oh, the one who was in the luggage boot of...
Oh, okay. So it does seem that...
Well, I might tell you, Inspector, after one glance and, quite frankly...
that the film could get turned up just a little bit.
The lady seemed to me utterly unrecognizable.
Because of that, do you think the man who killed her...
Or woman?
What makes you think the murderer might be a woman?
Yeah, well, why not? It's just a thought. After all, as far as I can see, there's no evidence one way or the other. You spoke of the man who committed the murder. I simply suggested it might have been a woman. Why? Isn't it possible?
Certainly. It is possible. The use of vitriol does suggest a woman's hand, or a colored person's. They're experts at such things. I'm grateful for your suggestion.
Don't rely too much on the words of a diplomat, Inspector. Remember, we're all professional liars. Oh, we may do it with a certain amount of style and elegance, but we're still liars.
So you have no idea who might have put that corpse in your car, or why?
No. No, I haven't the faintest idea. However, if it's any use to you, I might suggest that this could be an attempt to create a big scandal, which would compromise relations between our two countries, which right now happen to be excellent.
Yes, I suppose.
All right, so I did turn it up a little
Most
bit.
kind, Your Excellency. I don't know how to...
Why, not at all. It's my duty to collaborate with the authorities of the country of which I'm a guest. It's a matter of courtesy.
Would you allow me to question some members of the embassy staff?
Yes, of course. But not here. Call them to the police station, will you? Whom do you want to see?
For the moment, it'll be enough to talk to the chauffeur and the governess. Later, perhaps...
Well, let's hope the matter will end there. It will be so much better for all of us. I'll take you to your car.
No, don't worry.
No, it's a pleasure.
Maggie?
You are here, too.
Yes. Who is it they're questioning in there now?
Mandel, the chauffeur.
Listen, Maggie, there is one thing I would like to ask.
You can be sure, miss. I know what I have to say and what I haven't. I'm not so stupid as to tell the police everything about the ambassador's private life. That would be quite useless to the police and dangerous for me.
So, what do you want me to say? You've been making questions now for 2 hours, and I don't know what I can tell you that I haven't already told you.
You haven't told me much.
I'm sorry. I suffer from conjunctivitis. I can't bear the light.
Rather inconvenient for your kind of job.
Yes, it is.
You haven't replied.
I've told you everything.
Interesting.
That night, I went out as usual.
To go to the pictures, wasn't it?
Yes, to the pictures. Even if I can't prove it.
You can take your glasses off now. There's not too much light in here.
It was almost midnight. I got home, I put the car in the garage and locked the doors.
Yes, you told us that.
I'm telling you for the 100th time.
Take it easy. We're just asking questions.
But you ask questions like you suspect that I'm guilty.
That's your opinion. He only wants to know if you've forgotten some detail that might be important to us.
I do not forget anything.
All this means, therefore, is that when you got back to the embassy, somebody else could have put the corpse in the boot of the car.
That's what I say. And the next morning I brought the car round and was waiting for Mrs. Sobieski to come down.
That's not what the governess said this morning.
Why, what the hell did she... That's stupid. And so,
A lot. She said that when she came out of the embassy with Mrs. Sobieski, it looked as if you were in a hurry to go somewhere, and that you only reversed the car because you saw them coming out.
Well, I didn't think that was worth mentioning.
Why did you take the car out?
Well, that morning I thought they would come out late, so I thought I would dash up to the cleaners.
Are these the cleaners?
Yes, that's the place.
What is so urgent? Did you have a shirt that was dirtier than usual?
I don't know what you mean. I'm only telling you the facts.
We appreciate that, even if sometimes your facts are incomplete. It's a question of distraction. Then what?
That's all. Nothing else.
Very well. If in the future you should happen to remember something else, some detail that you think is unimportant, instead of keeping to yourself, you might let us know. You can go now. You can tell the ambassador that so far as you're concerned, the investigation's over.
I won't see him again. The ambassador has left. And besides...
Besides?
Nothing.
It's moving at a pretty good clip for a movie from this time.
Take it. But remember, this is the last time. Now get out and stay out.
The movie's not very subtle with its audio cues, is it? That's the butler again.
Is that all he gave you? He gets tighter every day, the old bastard.
I gave him what he asked for. But this is the last time. I'm fed up. All right, I agree to keep your son, but there's a limit to everything.
You could have let me speak to him, maybe.
No. No, this is the only way. The sooner he goes back to Switzerland, the better it is for all of us.
I thought they were from Belgium. I wasn't paying close enough attention. Yeah, it feels as though the staff have suspect the main guy, not the main guy, the ambassador of something. You know, he's always up to something. They don't involve themselves in his affairs. And so far as, you know, as the story is concerned, you know, I've recently watched a lot of these kinds of, you know, crime stories set in the 60s, set in the 70s. You know, the series Endeavor, which is based off of Detective Morse, or Inspector Morse, you know, but set when he's much younger, just joining the force. You know, a lot of it's set around a similar time. And they'll sort of slowly roll out each of the potential suspects and all this kind of stuff. I think because they're maybe more afraid that you won't be able to keep up with it. But with this, it's interesting because I feel like they're introducing suspect after suspect after suspect. And you know, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, potentially dangerous person after potentially dangerous person.
Sweetheart.
You scare easily, don't you?
How did you manage to get in?
It doesn't require much imagination to find a back entrance.
Guess who's here tonight?
I don't care. How much?
Once, when you offered to give me money, as I recall, you offered it with a certain flair.
And you too, when you asked for it.
I'm going to need more.
How much then?
A lot.
And if I refuse?
I wouldn't do that if I were you. Can you give me change for the phone, please?
Sure.
Yeah, the music's great so far. I mean, that's one of the pure joys of the, you know, cinema from this time is really the musical energy. You know, and that was a really cool shot, being able to establish all the space in a single shot, zooming in, you know, having a tight zoom on her while she's sitting down, following her up to the bar, pulling back even more to a wide shot as she crosses in the other room, and then zooming in on this guy who's keeping an eye on her with the glasses. I think that's really kind of the beauty that you get with these zoom lenses.
Where'd he go?
I don't know, and I don't care.
There's so much more complex to manipulate, though, because you really have to be able to.
Mr. Joe, what's the problem? It's that new singer. She's dead in the dressing room.
Oh wow, somebody else is already there.
Excuse me, I'm a doctor. Maybe I can help.
No, I think it's too late. Anyway, you better come with me. All right, go back. There's nothing to see. Well, and go to the door. Don't let anybody out and call the police. Move back, please, everyone. Come on now, move back. Go back to the bar. Go on now. All right, everybody, keep calm now. It's only a few. Please stay where you are. Sit down. No one's to leave the premises. Please. You must wait until the guards get here.
You're showing a fine turn of speed there, miss. Getting a bit stuffy, wasn't it? Are you running for your car?
No, I was with a friend. We came in a taxi.
Ah. Well, never mind. I'll give you a lift. Here now, and you'll need
I
this.
thought you had a car.
Oh, the only car you're going to see around here is the paddy wagon.
You mean the police?
That's right, only we call them the guards. Now get your finger out and hop on. Who is your friend?
You must be pretty desperate.
Would it be enough to say thank you in return for your kindness?
Oh, there's no need for thanks.
All this trouble for nothing.
I didn't exactly say that. Are you making for the airport?
No, I live outside Dublin. You know the Manos?
Ah?
You do? Then to the Manos. Do you always take advantage of disasters to pick girls up?
Well, I wouldn't consider it a habit now. You have a name.
Of course.
Well, what is it?
Helen. Do you want to hear my life story, too? Turn in there.
Well, now, me fleet-footed filly. Are we going to have it off in the bushes or on the bike?
It's damp in the bushes. You could have asked me in a roundabout way for a scotch or a cup of tea. You know, I'm a great believer in formality. Like you.
You have a nice turn of phrase, too. Here now, as long as you're going to keep me standing outside. By the way, isn't this the place they found the...
That they found a corpse? Yes. Curious, isn't it? You picked me up in a club where they found another corpse.
Funny, it doesn't seem to worry you very much.
Why should it? I'm not the murderer.
Do you work here?
As the ambassador's daughter. Shall we go in? You coming? Oh, hello, Mandel.
Good evening, miss.
You look so strange. Aren't your eyes better?
Much better, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good night.
Let's go upstairs and have that whiskey we talked about.
This would be a case of losing pace a little bit. You know, them getting off the bike, having this conversation, then getting inside, seeing them get all the way inside, and then now they're here, and now they're having another conversation.
And that's my father.
Kind
I
of
hope he's in a good mood.
slows
By
the
the way,
pace.
he asked me who you are.
Well, now, I've washed dishes, swept the streets, and done a little gun running. If he waits a couple of years, he can read the book I'm writing about my life.
So the daughter of the ambassador happened to be at the same nightclub that her father showed up at. Pay that woman off. And potentially kill her. But what I was saying earlier is I like how...
Oh, that's my father. He won't smoke any other brand, but I've never known him to finish one yet. Would you like one?
Huh. Oh, no, I can't stand the things myself.
Shall we go and hear some nice records?
Though, would you call that to be...
Oh, don't be silly.
But yeah, what I was saying before is I like how they've introduced a lot of suspects and a lot of doubt and sort of confusion early on. You know, it doesn't feel like it's too much to follow, but it definitely feels close to that breaking point of like, oh wow, there's too much going on. But you know, it's a fine balance that, you know, you have to sort of figure out how many suspects can you introduce, how much kind of confusion. I think, you know, it's something when maybe you're writing the script that you would have to keep going over, you know, do I need to maybe dole this out over the course of the entire sort of first act, or can I front load it as this film has done? Or maybe do I even need to like remove an entire suspect altogether because it's just making it too confusing. Excuse me. But yeah, the way they've done it in this, I think it works.
Who are you calling?
Oh, there you are. That's the way I like you.
After this scene, I'm going to make sure that the stream is still up because I don't know if YouTube is going to flag that as inappropriate content, even though this film itself is on YouTube. So I'm just going to check that real quick.
Let's go. Mother, the telephone. Mother! For pity's sake, it's the phone! Oh, Mother.
Now eat your dinner. Come on now.
Hello. Yes, it's himself.
Eat it up.
Yes.
You're a good pussy.
Hello, Daddy. Hi,
Oh,
Granny.
sweetheart, would you find Granny's glasses and put them on her, for the love of God?
Go on, pussy. Eat it. Eat it. Come on.
Now, where the devil have they got to?
All right, then.
What is it, Sasha? Come on. Not hungry?
Okay.
Come on. Oh, dear. Give Granny a kiss, dear.
So there was someone who gave money to the son of the ambassador.
Granny, why didn't you keep your glasses on? Daddy got angry because you didn't, as usual.
But I can't see anything. And if I can't see, how can I find my glasses? Anyway, if you didn't go out all the time, you could answer the phone. There. I've collected all the clippings on those two murders, and I think I know who the killer is. Did you say something?
What do you want me to say? If you don't put on your glasses, you'll never hear it. Keep them on a string, why don't you? And didn't I tell you?
I just gave them to her.
Now then. All right, Mother. Who is it, then?
You're pulling my leg.
Why, it never crossed me mind, Mother.
Oh, yes, you are. I know it. You think because I'm old and never go out that I can't find out who committed a crime just by studying the facts of the case. But you remember that old woman in the Agatha Christie books?
You know I don't like detective stories.
That's another of your defects. You read too little.
Dare say. Now, who do you think is the killer?
Hold on to your seat, Daddy, while Granny tells you.
As for you, young lady, just you remember your place.
Now then, Mother, don't go changing the subject. Come on now, out with it, Miss Marples. How is
Are you
it?
listening? Well, it's the son of the ambassador.
The son of the ambassador?
Mm-hmm.
No, no, no. You'll be saying next it's Father O'Connor.
Well,
Daddy!
What is it?
Daddy, where are you going?
Secret mission.
It was sort of a strange scene with the family because, you know, I don't know why he would care that it was the son of the ambassador. Why would that matter to him? You know, that she thought that he was the killer. Now he's rooting around in the house where the woman was murdered. I guess the first woman to be murdered wasn't really associated with, she wasn't killed in the house of the ambassador. The Embassy, I guess would be that. The name of that building.
All right, now get him up. And don't you move. Now, let's take a look at your ugly mug.
Like a whiskey, John?
How? With these things on?
Take those handcuffs off him. I told you I was going to use unorthodox methods in this case. He's my unorthodox method.
You might have told me that I'd find your unorthodox friend in that flat to save my chin.
If you went there on your own initiative. Too much zeal sometimes gets a man into trouble. Go on.
Good luck.
You were too hard on those two.
They weren't exactly kidding either.
You haven't changed since...
You mean since when I was in your place, Lawrence? All right, then.
I said talk! 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 Damn you! I know you did it! Talk! No, you don't. No!
Why do you act this way?
I don't even know myself. Could be the memory of my wife's murder. The thought that every criminal I meet might be the killer. When I saw your sergeant walk in, my mind went suddenly haywire because I thought he might be the one that I've been looking for. Thanks.
You know, I remember once in Brazil, I stepped on an iguana, hidden among the jungle foliage. This murderer, too, is certainly living amongst us, perhaps under our very eyes. You know, the iguana is clever at disguising himself. The only difference is that the iguana, though horrible, is harmless, while our murderer is probably pleasant to look at, but he cuts throats and uses vitriol. It's his tongue of fire, you might say. Now then, about that girl. Come off it. Don't play the fool. You know what I mean. The ambassador's daughter. Cultivate her. It could be useful. It's the only discreet way we have of finding out what the ambassador's up to.
All right. If you want. Well, what is she? Just another bird.
Try not to get into too much trouble. You know the risk I took giving you this job.
I won't forget it.
Where are you going now?
To the hospital to get myself sewn up.
Doctor, there's a man here who needs your help.
Well then, sit him down.
Come on. Sit yourself.
Yeah, I kind of felt like the scene where they showed, you know, him using these extreme kind of torture methods and
I won't need your help for this job. You may go. Switch off the light, please.
yeah, I felt like it was a little unnecessary. I think we could have gotten that in a different way.
It's rather a deep wound. A fight?
You might say,
Or maybe leaving it ambiguous.
Inform the police.
Don't worry. They were there at the time.
Don't move. You think that they will find the embassy murderer?
I wouldn't have any idea. And I couldn't care less.
The police will never find him. Never. He's too clever. Much too clever.
Oh my gosh.
Good evening, sir.
Oh, Norton. A bow of homage to the man who took my girl from under my eyes.
And how is it you know my name?
Who doesn't know the name of Inspector Norton? Or should I say of ex-Inspector Norton, known as the Brute. Doesn't it ever occur to you that sooner or later one of your victims might try to do you?
Do you call that a threat?
No, only a little bit of advice.
And here's a bit of advice for you, my boy. Don't run into me again. Madam, I'm sorry to be disturbing you.
No, you don't disturb me at all. Helen won't be long. Please sit down.
Thank you.
No, here beside me.
I was hoping, you see, that I would be lucky enough to have a little chat with your husband. I mean, of course, His Excellency.
I'm sorry you are not lucky at all. His Excellency has gone back to Switzerland. I am alone, as always.
The way you're saying it,
How do you expect me to say it? It's the truth. Behind this facade you're looking at, there is the most terrible Unbelievable. Emptiness. Between me and my children, between me and my husband. It's what I suppose they call nowadays incommunicability. Yes, incommunicability. Je suis formidable, formidable. L'amour est un oiseau rebelle que nul ne peut apprivoiser. But you see, the terrible thing is that I can't fire up. At least not as I did before. I'm no longer young. But I'm not for the garbage heap yet, huh?
Go on now. You shouldn't be talking like that. You're a very beautiful woman.
Oh, you're sweet. But I know you don't mean it. No. Don't try to deny it. I know you don't mean it anyhow. It's very nice to hear it said by such an attractive and charming man.
That's a marvelous fine lighter you have.
From Cartier. I would willingly give it to you, but I can't. It was a present from my first husband. Yes. When I married His Excellency, I had already 2 children, Helen and Mark. Bernard, the little boy, was born from my second marriage. Now, I only have memories and pleasure I can get from these. One of the few advantages I can get from being the wife of an ambassador. No police, no search warrants, nothing.
Poor Mr. Norton. I hope you haven't bothered him too much, Mummy.
Not a bit of it. Your mother's been delightful company.
Oh, another lie. You know, Helen, this gentleman, he's quite charming. He's a charmeur. Where did you find him?
Between one corpse and another.
Oh, mon Dieu, quelle façon de causer. What a horrible things to say.
Well, I think
Well, it was very nice to chat with you.
Yes,
Hope to see
thank
you
you.
soon.
Goodbye.
À bientôt.
Doesn't look much like her mother, does she?
This friend of yours is rather becoming a pain in the ass.
I don't know why you're talking like that. He's such a charming man. And not at all boring.
I'm beginning to get a little worried about you. You know, what little mind you had has been eaten up by those drugs.
You're going too far, Excellency de Merde.
I'm merely trying to lower myself to your level. And that is the place where I picked you up. Remember?
Thought he had left. Thought we were told twice that he had left. But I guess he
How
hasn't.
can I forget it? It's one of the most lovely souvenirs of my life. But I don't know what you're bragging about. You only got to this rank just because you've been bowing and scraping to one minister after another.
How dare you speak to me like that?
You can order your servants around or your whores. And from now on, you can go out with them to your boring reception and your official appearances.
Do you want me to break your neck?
Don't try to raise one finger to me. You have no idea how far I can go.
You bitch. You fucking bitch. You bitch. Bitch! Bitch!
Your place? Fabulous. What time? Yes, 5. See you then. Well then, I fixed a party for tonight, sort of an old male affair.
Oh, yeah? Well, you can count me out. I have a date with Helen, and I don't want to lose her.
Count me out, too. I have something else on myself for tonight.
You can't. I've arranged everything.
Oh, come on, Jerry. Don't get your knickers in a twist.
Well, you can't just...
Oh, no? Why should we do what you want?
You take it easy. Don't try pushing me too far. I warn you, it wouldn't take much before I...
Oh, what a roar. Well, Lon, what would you do?
Tell me.
Or shall I knock your face in?
Yeah, interesting dynamic between these characters. I feel like now I'm starting to get a little lost. You know, there's this guy who's sort of dating Helen, or thinks he's dating Helen, and he's in a bathhouse with a butler. Oh my gosh, they're so close to the edge of that cliff. And then there's... yeah, that butler guy. And then there's other guy, this bald guy.
John, why don't you come with me to Switzerland?
Kind of Henry Silva guy.
Will you tell me something, Helen? Did you know your father was having an affair with that girl they found in the car?
No, of course not.
He was going with the one in the club, too. You know, what I'm saying doesn't seem to astonish you a bit. Now, why is that?
Why should it astonish me? My father's always been a collector. He happens to collect women. Now, why all these questions, Inspector Norton?
You know who I am.
I've known from the start. Ever since that evening you drove me home. My father recognized you, then Walter confirmed it.
I see. So that's why he called you into the library and you had that argument.
I don't remember having an argument with my father that evening.
Then I'd say you had an unusual way of conversing.
Well, it's true, father, that his stepfather can be a little original in his behavior at times. But he's just like that. It's not important. But tell me, why did you leave the police?
I'd rather not go into it.
We as the audience have to go into it, I guess. These shots are intense, like these huge cliff faces. And it looks like they're really there. I mean, I don't know how else
What is the matter?
they would have gotten these shots in 71. I guess they could be tied. I guess they could have a rope. But yeah, why would they risk it? I mean, they make for pretty breathtaking shots. Pretty amazing. These helicopter shots, on the other hand, are really struggling. Very shaky. Oh, wow.
Can't say I care for that customer.
Oh.
What do the papers say?
Oh, there's a lot of speculation on Sobieski's role in this affair. The usual things to arouse readers' interest. They're only agreed on one thing. That we are incompetent and inefficient.
Hello, Joe.
Norton?
Will you give me a pint of the black stuff?
We've got someone here that's been waiting for you.
You have?
named Joe, and he looks like Joe Wilkinson a little bit. Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry. I'm going to rewind it just a couple of frames here. Okay, so we're supposed to believe that the same person who's leaving him a note is the same person that killed the butler, the mustachioed butler man. He's been lured here. Is this again the house that the woman was killed in? And he's coming back? Doesn't want to try the light switch first, I guess. Oh my god. Now the boyfriend's been killed. He's got Mother's lighter.
My precious puss.
And the little red car
Go
leaves
down to
again.
the kitchen and have some food. That's right, my pussy. Go on. Down you go. That's my puss.
Yeah, up to this point I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of like what the boyfriend was doing, how he sort of ended up there. Maybe a sort of similar scene to the first one with the woman, you know, kind of him, how he ended up in that scenario. Bloody razor blade in Norton's cabinet. You know, how the boyfriend ended up with the golden lighter. I don't know if that would necessarily make things clear as to now, but I feel like I am getting a little lost.
Who's there?
It's me, Mother.
Is this your razor?
Yes, it's mine. I thought I might shave the old way again for a while, but I found I was a bit wobbly. You see?
I see there's been a new murder.
But I suppose you already know who did it.
And I suppose your suspicions are on the ambassador's wife, because you found her lighter at the scene of the crime. But you're not listening.
Oh, for crying out loud. Of course I'm listening. Go on.
No. A criminal on this level would never be so stupid as to leave such obvious clues behind. Somebody has done that to fool the police. That shows the murderer is an intelligent person, even if a bit infantile. If you've never read anything but the story of Tom Thumb, you must know that.
So, go on.
The murderer is the little boy. The little monster. Believe me.
Hi, Granny. Hello, Daddy. I'm going to the kitchen. I'm hungry.
Oh my goodness. Granny's face. I mean, it's not enough to put a dead cat in somebody's fridge. You also have to ruin their cake. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'll drive a man to speed.
Please. If you go through there, you'll find the young lady in the bar. First door on the right.
Have you got a pen and paper? Thank you. Would you perhaps be kind enough to see that this reaches her?
Of course.
Her boyfriends even follow her out here.
What a surprise.
I could have. Mister, you know.
A bad sign, hmm?
By the way, who are those two fellas you were with?
You're jealous, huh?
Could be.
One's my brother Mark, and the other one is a friend of his.
I was hoping to have a word with your father.
Is it very urgent?
More or less.
You'll find him over at the bobsleds. He spends all his time there. There's my father's bobsled.
Whoa. Whoa. Meow. Meow. Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Do you mind if I sit down?
Please. I'm fully aware of the reason for your visit.
I feel...
And I can assure you that I intend to take full advantage of my diplomatic immunity to refuse any further comment on an unfortunate incident or many of the others which followed it. Now, if that is quite clear, Norton, then maybe I can offer you a drink. Or a cigar.
Thanks. Would you believe I flew all the way to Switzerland for the purpose of finding out what brand of cigar you smoke?
And now you know.
There was something else.
I thought we had finished. It seems I was expecting too much from a policeman.
Trying to pull a Columbo on him.
Are you aware that your bobsled was sabotaged? Somebody was trying to kill you.
Oh, well, that's really very good news. I thought it was my fault. Well, in any case, you sent your report to the federal police.
Gonna say. before that I felt.
Why don't you stay on another day or two?
No, I have to get back. Why didn't you tell me you'd rented that place in Dalkey?
I rented nothing in Dalkey.
Sorry.
Are you out of your mind?
Listen, the time is long past when I used to enjoy solving riddles. So if you're hiding something from me, it's better for you that you tell me now.
But I swear to you, I don't even know where Dalkey is.
It took a while, but I tracked down the solicitor for the woman who owns the house. I saw the lease. It had your name on it, Helen, in nice clear letters. Some of your dresses were hanging in the bedroom closet. And one other thing. There was a guest in the house when I got there. A very dead one. And he wasn't in the closet, though. He was in your bed.
Look, if this is a joke, it's in very bad taste.
No, it's no joke. The dead house guest was your old pal, Walter. You haven't forgotten him, too, have you?
How horrible. It's terrible. I can't believe it. It can't be true.
It's true, Helen. They're all facts. Like the fact I also found a lighter in the room. A very special one, a Cartier lighter. Then there's the fact that Walter's body was covered with flowers. I've no idea why, possibly to hide the ugly gash across the poor devil's throat. Now will you tell me the truth?
I've told you the truth already. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all so shocking, so awful. And after all, you just told me you found my mother's lighter. If that's true, why didn't you immediately go to her, instead of torturing me with such silly accusations?
He didn't say it was his
That's
mother's
just what
lighter.
I'm going to do the minute I arrive back in Dublin. I want that killer, and embassy or no embassy, I'll get him.
So with this shot, you can kind of see that the background is completely blown out because of the snow. You know, exposed, way overexposed, super, super bright. They probably didn't have powerful enough lights on set there to bring up the lower level of lights on the actors. So then the background completely blew out because the actors were in the shade. I think the scene generally still works even with that, but it is a little distracting. Here's an example where the sky is exposed well and the actor is exposed well.
Something terrible has happened. Thank goodness you're here, sir. Madam was trying to kill herself in the bathroom.
So the thing I was going to say a couple of times before is, I wish that they had done maybe just a little bit more to show Helen and Norton kind of getting closer and closer.
Would you call an ambulance?
So that, oh my gosh, that's so bad, so horrible. But what I was going to say is if they had found a way to make it so that they had something connected, some way of getting more deeply connected other than him just offering her a ride home and then them sleeping together and then, I don't know, making out on a cliffside or whatever, so that, she trusts him more and wants to divulge more info. Doesn't feel as natural that really nothing has happened and all of a sudden, she's just
Inspector, I was waiting for you.
completely open to him.
I want to speak with you.
That could be something in the rewrite of the script you might notice and hopefully pick up on and be able to go back and kind of
The ambassador didn't need you any longer.
reference it and
So you know too.
find a way to build their
Almost 3 weeks
relationship
ago,
and their
he
connection
said,
or
"With
give
my
them a reason,
conjunctivitis,
give
I couldn't
her a
drive
reason to
anymore."
want to be more deeply connected to him.
He has to pay me what he owes me. He thinks he can take advantage of me because he's a diplomat on foreign soil.
Or open up to him
He
more.
doesn't know the likes of me. I will knock his block off even if they put me inside for it. You know that? And that fucking bastard.
And why didn't they give you a month's notice?
I don't know. It was 20 days ago. That's why I'm sitting here. Free as the air and without a penny in my pocket, no?
20 days ago. That'll be right after the murder, then.
Yes. Yes, you are right. And now that I think of it. You smoke?
Uh-huh. No, I don't.
Oh, it got broken when I got off the bus. Some bastard gave me a shove, you know? I heard the crack, but I didn't take any notice at the time. And,
When you're pulling out?
Why?
No. I might just want to have another word with you. You never know. I'm sorry you're broke, you know. I'll take these with me and have them fixed.
You know, he's suspecting now that the piece of whatever it was he found in the embedded in the carpet was what came from those broken glasses.
Why did you do it?
I didn't try to commit suicide. Someone tried to kill me.
Who? Who was it?
I'm sorry, sir, but you better go now.
This woman must be Dagmar. That's what I'm thinking, is the actor Dagmar. She's intense. She's a good actor.
What's your opinion?
There's no doubt about it, Inspector.
Definitely a bit
This piece came from those glasses.
Very well. You can go now.
sort of vibrating on a different pitch than the rest of the film.
You don't seem sure.
Way more theatrical than the rest of the actors, but she's really good.
Just doesn't fit. We'll discuss your misgivings later. This is Jack Mandel's address. Bring him here. Well, what are you waiting for? Go on. All right. What is it that doesn't fit in according to you? Does it surprise you that a murderer should leave such obvious clues?
Lawrence, if you had a mother like my mother, you'd know what it means to have misgivings.
Just have to wait for a few minutes, and then we'll know the answer.
This guy's acting pretty damn suspicious. You know, the glasses, broken teeth, is it gonna fit? They're gonna go hunt him down. I guess that's who they're sending the sergeant to come pick this guy up, maybe.
Hello? Inspector Norton, please.
Yes, put him through. It's for you.
Yes, go ahead.
Listen, I went to the
Manley.
embassy to get my money, you know.
I heard Mrs. Sobieski shouting, and if I hadn't come in at that moment, she would have ended up like the other victims. No. I saw the person who was trying to kill her. Yeah.
I cannot tell you who it was because I'm scared, you understand? But it was not me, right?
Yes, I know that, for God's sake. Who was it?
I'm sure you've already got an idea about who it is since, well, from the beginning. No!
Oh.
Handel.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my goodness. It's so obviously a fake neck and fake blood and, you know, with the knife plunging into it, but it's
Just a
still
moment.
just so brutal. It's
I'm
effective.
not deaf. I'm coming.
The lady wants to talk to Mr. Norton. I said he wasn't in, but...
I'm Helen Sobieski. I'm a friend of your son.
I know everything about you.
Everything?
Yes?
May I come in and wait for him?
Of course. Now, thank you, God.
Thank you.
I've seen such a prisoner with these policemen, but my son wanted it. He said we're safer, but it's such a bore.
Will he be very late?
Oh, I don't think so. But please sit down. I'll get you some coffee. Do you like coffee?
Yes, but don't bother.
It's no bother.
I like her jaunty hat. Never a bad look to have a jaunty hat. Does she already have the water boiling? A little silly. The last scene was a little silly with...
Here you are, Miss Sobieski.
You must think I'm terribly rude, but John has talked so much about you and Dan. That's his daughter's name, I believe. And that I felt a desire to see his home. You're a woman. I'm sure you understand my curiosity.
Of course I understand, but don't worry. Come and have some coffee.
Thank you.
No, 2-5. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Hello? Who do you want to speak to?
Hello. This is Inspector Norton calling from Dublin. I want to speak to Mr. Mark Sobieski.
I'll go and see if he's in.
Who is it?
I'm sorry, Mr. Sobieski is out. If you leave your number, I'll have him call you when he gets back.
No, don't bother.
You're very kind. But I'm afraid I can't wait any longer. Please excuse me. And would you tell your son that I'll call him later?
Of course I will. And I do hope you'll come again very soon.
Thank you, I will. Goodbye.
Goodbye. You frighten the life out of me.
When will you learn that if you don't wear your glasses, you can't hear anything? Somebody could come in and kill you, like they did the cat.
With that policeman out there, that's not possible.
Well, you could bolt the door.
What?
You could bolt the door.
So the glass, I guess the glasses have a hearing aid in them or something?
Taxi! Taxi! Over here! Taxi!
Oh no! The poison!
Help me, somebody!
Helen's being hunted. That wasn't supposed to be a Helen Hunt pun, but I guess it turned into one. Oh my goodness. Well, thankfully, I think she could at least survive that.
Do you think we should inform the police?
No, there's time for that later. Right now, we don't know what it was. An accident, attempted murder. Maybe she wanted to kill herself. The only thing we do know is that you fished her out of the river in a state of shock.
Do you think she's one of them donkeys?
Maybe. But it's strange, she has some bruises on her forearm. I don't know exactly what caused them. For the moment, the only thing to do is to let her sleep.
Says driving car.
It's all clear now.
The old Irish Tesla.
Helen, my dear, do come in. My son isn't here, but this time I won't let you go till he comes back. And this time you must have a cup of my excellent coffee. Please sit down. I'll just put the kettle on.
I don't know what that means.
Dear, I should put on a saucepan instead of a kettle, but it's too late to worry.
Does that mean it's Mom? I don't recognize that bracelet from any other scene, but they're showing it like we should recognize it. No! Poisoning Norton's. I mean, I guess it's just poison, but it's more like acid or something. His poor daughter.
What are you?
Oh no! His poor family. I had nothing to do with this.
Hello, William. I'll be in for the rest of the night. You can go.
That's very good of you, sir. Thanks.
Well, anything new in the papers?
Well, there's nothing that the politicians won't solve, sir. Good luck.
Oh. Oh. Oh, it's horrible.
She's got Granny.
Oh, poor Granny.
Helen! Helen! You're crazy! You're a brother. For God's sake. I kill you like all the others.
Oh, that poor girl. Oh, that's so sad.
I'll kill you.
Oh. I feel like they were showing... Oh! Oh! I thought they were showing that he wouldn't allow the guy to die or allow the guy to kill himself. Oh my goodness.
Mark had always been perverted. Sick. He hated us. Oh, I think he hated everyone whom he thought was happy, beautiful, lucky. Yes, he really tried to destroy us. He tried to make us look responsible for all those murders. Mandel, the chauffeur, found out the truth and was trying to blackmail him. Well, the rest you know. Anyway, my career is quite over. At least I shall have time to try and forget.
And what's happened with Helen?
She's in Paris. She'll join us later. Anyway, I hope so.
It's all a bit pathetic, isn't it?
You'd have put the handcuffs on him quick enough.
Yes, because it was he who killed the girl they found in the car. That was what touched off Mark's wild spree.
Why didn't you tell me this before?
It would have been useless. You wouldn't have been able to do anything. Anyway, when he arrives back in his own country, he'll be in for an unpleasant surprise. He won't have his diplomatic immunity then. And this time he won't screw the police. Time for a drink.
Down just a little bit. Give me one moment. And we'll get right. Oh my gosh, that's way louder than I thought it was going to be. One moment, one moment. All right, so that is the end of the Iguana with the Tongue of Fire. It took me a second to remember what this one was called. Yeah, this was a really fun watch. I felt like there wasn't as many points to kind of interject and give my take as I thought there was going to be. You know, I kind of suspected that a 1970s film would be paced a little bit slower, but this actually moved at a pretty good clip from moment to moment, which was good. I've watched a few of these giallo films, especially ones from the 70s, and they can tend to move a little bit more slowly and a little bit more you know, kind of methodically, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna check the audio levels, make sure they're not too. Yeah, I think the music's a little too loud. All right, let's see what that sounds like. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. All right. So, yeah, my thoughts on the film. Yeah, I liked it well enough. I thought there was enough stuff to kind of keep me hooked in. You know, sort of the initial. Cool. Yeah, sorry, I just keep checking the audio levels because I don't want the music to be drowning me out, and I also don't want it to be so low that you can't even hear it at all. So yeah, my thoughts, I liked it well enough. There was enough stuff to kind of keep me hooked in and kind of locked in. You know, in the beginning they were setting up, you know, is it the ambassador? Is it the butler? Is it the boyfriend? Is it the doctor? You know, they introduced the doctor kind of later into the first act, you know, when he's at the crime scene, and then, you know, Helen's there and you don't even really know who Helen is. And, I mean, I guess maybe they kind of do, there was a scene with two women kind of talking, you know, we don't involve ourselves in his affairs, and maybe that was Helen and the mother, and I kind of missed that, but, you know, I think it worked well enough that you don't maybe know that Helen is the daughter of the ambassador, and then the ambassador shows up and the woman ends up dead. And then Helen ends up going home with Norton. I think all in all, that whole setup really worked well enough. You know, like I was saying as we were watching it. Sorry, it's just a loud noise in the room next to me, but yeah, I do feel as though that setup generally kind of worked well enough. You know, the woman ends up dead, and then you're kind of then you're the chauffeur, I guess, was another character that you could have potentially been the been the killer. And so I think, yeah, that whole first act stuff kind of worked. The second act stuff, I thought, where it really struggled was, again, and I mentioned this during the film, is I didn't think they gave us enough to really believe that Helen and Norton, that they really had this deeper connection or this deeper bond. And so I think the idea that from a script writing standpoint, sorry, I'm just going to check the audio levels, make sure I'm not getting totally drowned out. Yep, we seem to be good. But yeah, I do think from a script writing standpoint, from a script standpoint, from a screenplay standpoint, they could have done a bit more to show us a way in which Helen was really falling for him, or Helen felt this deeper connection to him, or he felt as though he was really falling for her, finding some way that they really loved each other, or really cared about each other, or really needed each other. And I don't really know what that would be. I think you would have to, it's almost almost like game design in a sense, where you have to add in an element and then play it all the way through and see, okay, does that work? And if it doesn't, then you go back, remove that element, add in another element, play it all the way through, does that work? And so I think in the case of this film and these characters, it did really struggle a bit, because it felt as though Helen was why was she attached to him? Why did she care about him? Why did she have any deeper pull to help him, or listen to him, or go to him, or do any of the things that he asked? Not that he was asking her for these huge things, but in a sense, kind of, why would she want to betray her family, her mother, her father, her brother, her, like any of these people, even the people that worked at the embassy for them? Why would she want to, betray any of those people, or something to that effect? She has no real reason to, other than, it's the law or whatever, the right thing to do. I mean, I guess that's a fairly good reason to do something, but I do think that there could have been a bit more for us to, to see that she really did have some reason to want to do that. And maybe, I think a thing that's very common in these kind of older movies is that, I was going to say he saves her from some dangerous situation, and then she feels like indebted to him, or like she loves him because of this, weird feeling she now has because, of this trauma bond or whatever. That's not really the right term, but she's bound to him through this crazy experience, and she's tricked herself into loving him or whatever. And I guess you could kind of say that was what happened with him rescuing her from behind the nightclub, or from the bar. But two things. One, she didn't really need rescuing, and it didn't even feel as though she felt as though she needed to be rescued. And two, we find out later that she knew who he was. So it's not as though she was like surprised and like, oh my gosh, this crazy event, let me, please help me out of this situation. Now I'm indebted to you forever, and thus also now love you or whatever. But, so I didn't really feel that that was the case with that scene, and it didn't really add up as the film went on. So yeah, I won't drag on and on about that, but that really kind of was one of the rougher things into the second and the third act, is like, why does she care so much about him and maintaining that relationship, and almost kind of betraying her father and her mother for that reason. And then I think the kind of most obvious, and I would imagine any of you who are watching this would feel the same way, is like the killer, the person who ends up being the killer ultimately. First of all, I kind of don't even really know who it was. I guess it was her brother, or a brother of hers. Are there multiple brothers? Because it didn't feel like the brother with like the kind of bushy, wavy hair who gets the check from the father in the beginning, and then we see him later, with the woman in the bed lying that he's not there when the detective calls, or when Norton calls. That stuff all really felt, that to me, that was her only brother. To my knowledge, that was her only brother. And then later, when Norton confronts the guy in the house and he's attacked his mom and his daughter, which we'll get into those scenes in a moment, because my God, horrible scenes. Norton says you're her brother. I guess he could mean the brother of the mom, meaning the uncle of Helen, instead of Helen's brother. No, because he confronts and says, Helen, why are you doing this? At least that's how I remember it. He's saying, Helen, why are you doing this? And then he says, no, you're her brother. So either that was the same brother, and that wavy hair is all a hairpiece and he took it off when he was doing his killings or whatever, or there was another brother, a second brother, potentially a brother from another mother. No, I'm sorry, that was a dumb joke, but but yeah, I really didn't feel as though they fleshed out that character in any way. It felt like we were introduced to them in the bathhouse, and then that's kind of it. And so I feel as though it's a little bit less rewarding, this reveal of, it's this brother character. Well, but who is that? Like, why do I care? Why does that matter? And so, I feel like, again, this is a place where, a stronger script could have kind of helped us with that. So finding ways to connect with that brother. Let's say it's Helen's brother, because honestly, I don't know. One of Helen's brothers. What is the story there? Is there, is this if it is not to make the joke, but a brother from another mother or another father or whomever, why is he sort of estranged from the family, and seeing that brother and that family, and so, then we get a story potentially where, let's say the brother learns that the father, because as they sort of said in the movie, or at the end in that last part of the thing there, the whole thing that kicks it off is he found out that his father had killed this woman, and let's say, you know, maybe that was his mother, and you know, it as I'm kind of replaying it now, I'm thinking maybe that is the case. You know, that was his mother, and you know, she was demanding money or something. I don't even really know, but I think there's more ways in which, you know, it's like I'm having to do the work after the fact for the movie rather than the movie giving me enough kind of interesting clues. So we're supposed to believe the father killed that woman, and then that's what caused the son to then go on this rampage. But we don't know anything about that son. We don't know anything about the relationship between the father and that woman. I'm maybe kind of piecing it all together now, but that doesn't feel rewarding in the context of watching the movie. It just sort of feels as though you're kind of sitting there going, oh, okay, I guess there was a killer, and they were associated with the family in some way, not in the way that I thought, but there they are. And so, yeah, that ends up feeling a little, yeah, not very rewarding. And so, you know, finding a way to give us time with whomever the killer is beforehand. You know, even thinking, you know, just to use another sort of horror movie as an example would be, I'm just going to check the audio levels again. Another horror movie as an example would be the would be the Halloween film, or the Halloween film series. And if you go to the first Halloween film, then the very first thing you see is that, you know, who Michael Myers is, even though he's this essentially faceless killer throughout the whole movie. You do know who he is from the beginning. You get the sense of you know, whether this is politically correct or not, and it's, you know, in pretty arguably not politically correct, you know, that he's this deranged kind of psychopath. He escapes from this mental facility and then goes and kills all these people. But you get a sense of who he is. And so in the case of this film, you know, we need to know who the person is a little bit. And I think just getting one shot of him kind of holding the bathrobe tightly over his, you know, little bald head is not enough to feel as though we know that person as a character. And so I think maybe seeing that the staff is close with him and friendly with him because they know who he is truly, but the family themselves who live in the embassy, they're not friendly with him. They don't talk with him because he's not pure blood to that family or whatever. You know, that's an interesting kind of thing to potentially see, right? You know, we get this idea that, you know, he has resentment towards his family, and so but he lives with it and he copes with it and he deals with it in whatever way he can until he starts finding out that maybe his father is allowing, through his embassy connections or whatever, people to get away with certain things that are harming people of his social class, because he's of a lower social class or a lower sort of socioeconomic status or whatever. And so he then feels this even real deeper resentment towards his father. You know, it's like it just gets to be too much. And so that's when he starts to act out or whatever, you know, in some way. I don't really know how you would solve that problem, but we just need some more time with that character. We need to feel as though there is something, we have any connection to that character, because I don't feel as though we really do. And that, I think, leads us really well into that final scene where the person then gets into the house. I think that was well enough kind of set up. I thought that was an interesting, you know, kind of hook that then pays off later in the movie, that Granny is always losing her glasses. You know, I thought it was a joke that the daughter was saying, you know, Norton's daughter was saying she can't hear without her glasses on, but I guess, you know, they did have like a big piece near the end, so maybe they have like a hearing aid in them. But, you know, it's set up throughout the movie that she keeps losing her glasses, and then so finally when this person comes back and we learn, oh, this isn't Helen this time, it is somebody else, you know, oh, Granny's gonna let this person in without question. They're gonna look and go, oh, it's Helen, come on in. And then they're not gonna be able to see and they're not gonna be able to hear clearly. But I thought that was a really good setup or payoff of that setup from earlier in the movie. You know, but that being said, had they not paid that off, I think it would have been totally fine. I mean, I think one of my honestly favorite things about some of these older movies is they don't feel the need to connect every single thread, you know, from the beginning of the film to the end of the film. And I think that's really the downside of a lot of modern filmmaking, is it feels as though every single thing is just, it's all in service of the one thing that's happening. And I think sort of the beauty of these older films is that things can exist just to exist, and that creates this beautiful kind of, you know, tapestry that says, well, you don't need every single image on this interwoven tapestry for it to lay on you and keep you warm, as you know, or in this quilt, but it does add something greater to it. It becomes sort of greater than the sum of its parts in a sense. And so, but you know, going back to my point, I do think is that in the way that we didn't get any time with the brother or the killer or whomever, we did get a decent amount of time with the granny and with the daughter to really come to love those characters and care about those characters. And so when they're brutally attacked in that way, I mean, it was just, you probably saw me reacting to it. It was just like, oh God, this is horrible. Not only is just the violence against those characters, period, just so hard to watch, but just because, you know, I really came to love them over the course of the film. I was like, oh, they're really enjoyable and sort of cheery and silly and very fun characters, and they're connected to Norton, who's this character I've grown to kind of care about over the course of the film. And so to see them just be really just brutalized is so hard to watch, and the violence that was perpetrated upon them was just so hard to watch. And then at the end, with the girl's face had been scarred by the poison and all that, it was awful. I mean, it was really, really awful. But, you know, that being said, I do have to, I guess, kind of defend it to a certain extent in a way, because, you know, the thing that's coming to mind is the ultra violence of the like dojo fight scene in the Kill Bill. I think it's Kill Bill Volume 1, where Uma Thurman's character, I think the character's called the Bride, faces off against these like 100 people or whatever, and they're all in the black suits with the white shirts, and they're fighting with swords and stuff, and she's chopping them up and blood is flying everywhere. It's like, at the time of seeing that scene, I was like, I hate this. It's glorifying violence. It's glorifying, it's making it fun. It's making it a joke. And I just had nothing but negative things to say about it. But at the same time, I would ultimately defend that scene to say, that is what filmmaking is it should ultimately be able to show anything. And because it is not real, and because it is on a screen and you're viewing it through that screen, you should be able to connect with it as an audience member and have some sort of reaction to it. And same with something like, just so many horrible things that I've seen in movies. And do I think some movies push that a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. One of the only movies that I've ever walked out of, was Human Centipede #2, and it was just horrible, awful, just vile stuff. But I'll defend that movie as well. I think they should be able to put on screen, to a certain extent, pretty much whatever they feel is necessary to get their point across, except for a few horrible things, and we won't get into where I personally would draw some of those lines, because I just don't even think it's that interesting of a conversation. But in the case of this movie, I think it was just really hard to watch and really sad to see, that his daughter, scarred with this poison, and the grandmother, being brutal violence being perpetrated on her. All those things were really rough. But I think had the other side of the story been told a little bit better, then maybe it could have felt as though, those things were, I don't want to say justified, but, it would have felt maybe even greater that he was able to come in and rescue his family from something so horrible. But ultimately, I do feel like what sort of my takeaway from that scene is that it is a little rough that, they end up being, brutalized and scarred for something that has nothing to do with them. And there isn't enough after the fact, in those final scene or couple of scenes that sort of show us that they are ultimately going to be okay. Or really anything. So, that ends up being kind of just a sad moment in the film for me, because it just feels as though, these characters are just, again, they're just brutalized, and they're just, they're just fools for the story rather than being actual participants in it. And so I think spending some time with them after the fact, and him being able to find out his daughter's going to be okay, and even if his mother ended up dying or something, that I don't know. That's a really tough one. It would take me I'll have to sit and think on that more to see how I really feel about it. But my gut feeling now is that it gave me a really intense, guttural reaction, multiple times throughout that scene, or that series of scenes. But ultimately, I don't feel as though it feels justified, and it feels as though those characters are just these kind of horrible victims, and what they end up suffering is just really tough, and it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. So that was a tough scene for me. But like I said, like the scenes in all those other movies, and like the scene in this one, I will still probably, you feel as though as filmmakers that it is necessary to tell your story. Basically anything I think should be able to be in the film, and I do think some of these things, they can be reflections of things that happen in the real world. As horrible as some of those things might be, I don't think it is important to show things that are politically correct, so to speak, in terms of violence, for example, because, you know, it would make people feel better watching the movie. And I do think that it is, you know, it is worth considering as you're making the film. Is this really necessary? And if it is, I think you should go for it. If it's not, then maybe you should reconsider, okay, how can we tell this differently? Or how is this maybe just hurting people in a way that, and we're just to show violence or something of that nature. But I do think a lot of modern discussion around filmmaking is, you know, tries to twist it from a political way of thinking, or, you know, who is this violence against? So it's against this person or that type of person, therefore, you know, it shouldn't be shown because this person of this gender or race or whatever, you know, they're always the victim or whatever. But ultimately, I think if it tells a greater story that is about shedding more light on the circumstances of those people, or whatever it might be, then I think ultimately, and if it feels real enough, I don't think we should be closing ourselves off necessarily to those types of things. So this is a conversation that I think is willing to, you know, worth continuing to have as more and more time goes on, as I watch more films, as I continue to grow as a filmmaker, as I continue to grow as a person. Because I will be honest, I'm even feeling myself kind of struggling to find exactly the way that I would want to say some of these things, because I can feel myself kind of changing from maybe even the way I felt about this a couple of years ago. And I do sort of feel as though that's how I feel kind of happiest as a person, and I guess as an artist maybe as well, is as a person and an artist that can continue to grow as I keep making things, and as I keep producing more things, whether it's, you know, again, through producing, directing, writing, editing, whatever it might be. You know, I do think if you're always the same and you're never willing to change or never willing to reconsider your how you might feel differently about something from year to year to year, then yeah, you can't grow as a person, and therefore you can't grow as an artist. And so I do feel, as I'm talking through this with you all and about this particular film that we just watched, I do feel as though my feelings are changing about this, because on one hand, I do think pretty much anything and everything should be possible on screen through film. And I believe the same thing mostly about, games. Video games is another great love of mine, as a medium. But what is allowed, the reason this thought kind of comes into my mind is what is allowed, so to speak, or what is acceptable, so to speak, in games versus in film. It feels like this huge chasm, and there's always this pushback in film. Why is this happening to this character? Why is this character, that's unacceptable that a character be treated in that way, or, abused in this way, and blah, 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 blah. And I think it's an interesting thing to think about, because, it's a conversation that doesn't happen as frequently in film, but definitely still happens for sure. But it makes you sort of wonder, why is that the case in games, that people feel so strongly that characters can't be treated in certain ways, or have, be killed in certain ways, or whatever. And I just think it is an interesting thing to always think about. So my thoughts are always evolving on this. I hope that they're always evolving and always changing. I've heard someone say, you truly get old when you stop growing. And so I would like to think that I'm continuing to keep growing in this way. I'm trying in many ways in my life to keep growing as a person. I hope that I keep doing that. And so yeah, hopefully more of the films that we watch together on this show are ones that help me to keep evolving this thought and evolving these thoughts, and hopefully get more films that are thought-provoking and interesting. And I honestly didn't think this film would be so thought-provoking in this way. I'll be honest, I don't think this was a very incredibly thought-provoking film in a lot of ways, but it did, through some of its content, some of the content of the film, some of the moments of the film did link themselves to more interesting thought, and that allowed this conversation to happen. So in that sense, I think ultimately it is a film that I'm glad that I watched. I'm happy to have seen more films in the giallo genre. I'm always happy to see. And I mentioned before that I would talk a little bit about my relationship with giallo films, and they were introduced to me probably right around like 2003, 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. And I mentioned on the last episode that I had some friends that worked at this video store, this really awesome video store right outside of Washington, D.C., called Video Americaine, that's not there anymore. And, it wasn't your typical video store. You'd go in, and the whole right-hand side wall that went all the way to the back of the store, 110 feet into the back, was what they called the director's wall. So it was hundreds and hundreds of movies that was just organized by the, most famous film directors through, cinema history. And then it was around that time that a few film distribution companies, Blue Underground was one, and I think Anchor Bay was another one. I have to think of a few others. Let me actually look on my shelf right here. So yeah, I have a few films here that were kind of introduced to me at that time. I'll start with some of the non-giallo films that were sort of from a similar era. The first being Hitchhike, which is a Franco Nero, David Hess film, and Corinne Clary. This is a really brutal film, and yeah, this was distributed by Anchor Bay, and then this is Revolver, which is like a 70s crime film. I don't know if you can see these. That's Hitchhike, and then here's Revolver with Fabio Testi and Oliver Reed. This is a Sergio Solima film, and then this who directed this one? Directed by Pasquale Festa Campanale. I think that's how you say it. But then, yeah, this one, these both have music by Ennio Morricone, who's a fabulous composer. I was sort of thinking today as I trimmed my beard off and kept the mustache, I was going for sort of a Franco Nero look. You can kind of see him right down there. And I guess a little bit Oliver Reed in this film as well. So yeah, I was introduced to these sort of like 70s crime films, and then as I got more into the horror stuff, these are two Blue Underground releases of more giallo films. Dario Argento's The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and then Dario Argento's Deep Red. Bird with the Crystal Plumage also has Ennio Morricone music. Fiume di Cristallo is the Italian way of saying crystal plumage. And then this has music by Goblin. And this is music by George Gaslin and Goblin, played by Goblin. Okay, cool. So yeah, the Deep Red, this is David Hemmings and Dario Nicolodi, who I believe just passed away. And then Bird with the Crystal Plumage is Tony Mustaine, Susie Kendall, Eva Renzi. So yeah, these are more sort of classic giallos. I would say this Bird with the Crystal Plumage is probably closest to the film we just watched. It feels very, very kind of like crime mystery, murder mystery with a killer kind of tracking people around. But I was introduced to all those movies at the time, and those movies started coming out more on DVD and getting these kind of more special DVD releases, and I was renting them from the store and kind of falling in love with just the style and the sound and the color and the picture and a lot of the stuff that I mentioned as we were watching this, the use of the zoom lens, like starting on a character far away and then sort of tracking them, to a wide shot as they get closer and then zooming in somewhere else. I love that use of zoom lens. I think it's such an incredible way of connecting the location together as they did in the bar scene in this film. But yeah, I just really kind of fell in love with these films because I just think that they were just doing such wild stuff and really kind of going for it. And as I mentioned, some of them were on the more kind of grounded level, feeling as though they were more realistic and a lot more realism in tone. Like this movie felt very real, mostly across the board. And then ones that felt as though they almost kind of get into a what's the word I'm looking for? Almost like a hyper real, or so almost fantasy a little bit. And it feels as though like Deep Red, I think, is a film that in a lot of cases feels is very grounded in reality for the most part, but it still feels very fantastical in a lot of ways. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking those out if you like this movie even just a little bit. I would highly recommend going and seeking out some of the kind of more heavy hitters in the genre. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, I believe, is Dario Argento's first feature-length film that he directed. Yeah, I think it is. I think this is a great place to start. Ennio Morricone, God bless him, God rest his soul. We lost him very recently, but he's a wonderful composer, and people seem to say he was a very wonderful man. And some of his music is some of my favorite of all time. But yeah, I would say, the giallo genre, explore it if you like these types of movies. I think not all of them are perfect. There's really not even like that many amazing ones. I'd say there's like under probably 10 or 20, probably like 10 to 20 of them that are just awesome and, really amazing, worth seeing. And then a bunch of really kind of silly ones. But I think even some of the silly ones are worth seeing because you really can learn something from them in ways that, a lot of times they'll do something in a scene where you'll see it as a filmmaker, and you yourself, if you were a filmmaker watching this, hopefully you see something in every one of these little movies and go, wow, I would have never thought to do that. And, they're using tricks of the camera. One of the tricks that's kind of coming to mind, I can't remember what movie it's in. It might be in like Torso or something. There's a movie called Torso. And there's this scene kind of towards the end of the film, and the woman is being chased and she's kind of dazed and kind of like lost, and they do this great trick where she's kind of like running and she turns back to like look behind her, and they'll show one person coming in and then it cuts back to her and she kind of blinks, and then they show again and it's like, and no, it isn't the person she thinks that's coming to kill her, it's the person who's actually the person who loves her and cares about her. But they show, they actually get the actor in the first shot, the reverse shot. They get the person in the first shot. They get the actor who's the guy who's, out to kill her. So it plays this great trick on your mind where you're like, oh wait, it's the killer is after her, and then it cuts to her, cuts back, and oh no, wait a minute, it's not. It's this other guy. And so, it's these brilliant little ways that, when you don't have all these incredible special effects, like how can you still get across these really potent moments for an audience member. And so for that reason, I think it's really worth it to watch a lot of these older films. And in the case of this film, I would say one of my biggest takeaways is how simplistically you can use a single shot. The setup itself might take a little longer, but lighting an entire bar so that you can film it with, a zoom lens and sort of follow characters around, it's like, that's worth it, because then you get this really beautiful connected shot, but it also really kind of gives you a feeling of the entire space that they're in. Not that in that bar scene it was incredibly necessary for you to know where every single thing was, but I do think that is a cool thing that you end up getting out of a scene like that. And so, often in modern filmmaking, we're told that we need all these different shots, or we feel as though we need all these different shots, and sometimes keeping it really simple and connecting everything with one shot, I think can be really, really powerful. And so that's one of my big takeaways from this film. Maybe you have some. go and leave them in the comments down below what things you picked up. What did you learn from this episode? Did you learn something from me? Did you learn something from the film? Did you learn both? And that's going to do it for tonight. Basically, I will say if you enjoyed even a second of this today, then please go down and click the thumbs up, the big like button, and that helps us a lot. It lets other people know that folks are enjoying this, and it shows it to more people. If you want more stuff that we do, if you want to see more of our films when they come out, more of our projects when they come out, participate in other streams as they're happening, then click the big red subscribe button. You'll see it right down there. Click that big red subscribe button, and then a little bell icon will pop up. Click on that and say, I want to be notified of all. And basically what that'll do is it will send you a little ping every time we have a new thing going live, whether it's a live stream like this, or if it's just a new video going up on our channel, a new film, something like that. And last but not least, like I said, if you learned something from the film, from me, or from both, tell me something you learned from this, and down in the comments, go down below and write out a comment of something that you learned from this. So this was super fun. Thank you so much for joining me for this, and I hope to see you for the next one. I don't know what the next one's going to be. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll be able to do another one and do something really fun. Maybe we could do something with a little more comedy, a little more adventure. I love those types of movies. Maybe watch another Italian film, because I just those damn Italians, they make some wild films, and I certainly love it. So, but whatever it is that we watch, I hope that you join us for it, because it is a ton of fun doing this. So, like I said, thank you so much for doing this, for being involved and participating in the live stream or watching the video after the fact. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully I will see you next time. All right, thanks so much. See you.